What's up, nymphomaniacs? No, that doesn't sound right. Necrophiliacs out there? No, that can't be right either. Necromancers of the world, welcome. This is the Pestilence Corpselance build, the best build and most powerful to be pushing greater rifts. Closely followed by trag'ouls. Trag'ouls is really powerful too, but it's also Corpselance, so same really. But the thing about this build is, even though it's incredibly powerful and does a hell of a lot of damage, it's probably the most frustrating build that you will ever play, depending on your playstyle. For my playstyle, this is extremely frustrating. Reason being, the damage that you're seeing right now with Corpselances everywhere, it's a 10-second damage window that you get with Land of the Dead. Now, after that, we're dealing with a 2-minute cooldown. Yes, 2-minute cooldown, which we can reduce greatly using cooldown and little tricks of the trade that I'm going to explain in a second with our gear. But there's still a big gap between you doing damage again and just hoarding up enemies and trying to survive in the meantime, running around like a headless chicken. And that's not the way that I want to play Diablo 3. I want to feel invincible, I want to feel powerful, and I want to get in there and not run from things ridiculously. So if you can sort of deal with the fact that you're running around aimlessly for a while, just hoarding up enemies, getting ready for that 10-second damage window, then you're going to be fine. You'll probably enjoy this. I do have to admit that it's frustrating at first, and at first you might think there's no way I'm going to play this for very long, but you actually do get used to it. The more that you play and you realize how powerful it is and you actually get used to the playstyle, it does become quite enjoyable and it's not too bad to play, but totally up to you what you do. This is definitely the most powerful build for Greater Rift pushing together with trag'ouls, Corpselance. Let's get to town, have a look at the gear, and talk about what else is involved. Alright, so this is actually the only set for the Necromancer that I have yet to do a build guide for, so I'm pretty excited. I want to get this out there. It's been a while since I've played a Necromancer. I played every set except for the Pestilence. So for those of you that have been following my Necromancer videos, so sorry for the delay, but here it is, Pestilence. And if you want to check out all of my other guides for the Necromancer, and for any other class for that matter, go to my homepage on my YouTube channel, and there I got my playlist separated by class. So check out the classes. They should all be in order from date, from newest to oldest, so you can check out new guides, old guides, whatever you want. Now, thank God for coffee, because I don't know what I'd do without it. Let's have a look at the gear required for this. So we are using the full 6 pieces of Pestilence here, and as you can see, I've only got 2 Ancients here, and they're far from perfect. So my gear is pretty just basic level at the moment for this Necromancer Pestilence Corpselance build, and I just flew through that GR80 pretty much like it was nothing. It was so easy. So this is definitely potentially pushing 100 plus. I believe some of the better Necromancers around in the world that really focus on Necromancers, they're pushing GR 122 and above. I think 122 was the biggest clear. I might even go beyond that this season. I don't know, but it's definitely capable of pushing some really impressive Greater Rift levels, especially if you focus on getting Ancients and Primal Ancients if possible, if you get lucky enough. Now, what you want to focus on with the stats is definitely Intelligence, Vitality, critical hit chance, critical hit damage whenever possible, and definitely want to go with Corpselance damage for the chest piece there, and if you can, Corpselance damage for your offhand, but it's very important that you also have cooldown reduction. Now, that brings me to my next point. Cooldown reduction, make sure that you get that shit into any gear, any item possible. Cooldown reduction is the most important stat here. Put it in wherever you can, wherever it's possible. It's super important because the Land of the Dead ability takes 2 minutes to cool down, so we want to reduce this cooldown time by as much as possible, but 2 minutes is a long time. It's very annoying, so that's why we have that downtime where we're running around, rounding up enemies and trying to just survive until we get that 10-second window. We're using the Traveler's Pledge with the Compass Rose there. We've got Dainty's Binding here, which gives us damage reduction whenever we decrepify an enemy, so decrepify is going to be a very important ability. I'm using Ancient Path and Defenders here, so for every enemy stunned within 25 yards, it reduces your damage taken by 10%. However, you can use like Nemesis Braces or any other braces that kind of fit the bill. There's no real set braces for this build that must be used and that are necessary. Just pay attention and make sure that you have cold skill damage for your braces as well. Crispin's sentence is super important. You deal increased damage against slow enemies, or triple this bonus against enemies afflicted by any other type of control impairing effect. So very, very useful ring there. Trag'oul's Corroded Fang, oddly enough, is definitely necessary for this build. Now, some of you might be scratching your head thinking, hang on a second, looking at the legendary stat there, it says the Cursed Scythe rune for Grim Scythe now has a 100% chance to apply a curse, and you deal 173% increased damage to cursed enemies. We're not using Grim Scythe, but we still get that damage bonus of 173% because we're cursing enemies. So don't worry, it's been tested. We definitely get that damage bonus. Now the offhand again is very optional, but you definitely want Corpse Lance damage and cooldown reduction, 100% cooldown reduction anywhere possible. And that reminds me, make sure you have cooldown reduction for your main hand as well. Super important cooldown reduction. This build is cooldown reduction heavy. Now, so is the Crusader for the Condemned build, but at least with the Crusader, we have 100% uptime when we have enough cooldown for our Akrat's champion. This is impossible to have 100% uptime of Land of the Dead. We just have to run around like headless chickens, trying to survive, cursing enemies, and getting ready for that 10-second damage burst once again. The gems, we want the Diamond Gem in our Helm slot, again for cooldown reduction, and then Intelligence Gems or Topaz Gems for everywhere else, for your chest and for your pants there. The Legendary Gems we're using, Bane of the Trapped, Molten Wild Beast Gizzard, and Zay's Stone of Vengeance. Definitely want to use those three. Let's have a look at Kanai's Cube. Super important. For your weapon slot, you want to be using Raylena's Shadow Hook. For armor, the Corpse Whisperer Pauldrons. And for jewelry, definitely a Convention of Elements to increase some damage. Now, I have done some tests with Unity, so having Unity either in Kanai's Cube or equipped, and then Unity on your follower, it doesn't really help survivability all that much. I think that extra damage is definitely nicer, and while we're in that Land of the Dead phase, we can definitely do that extra damage. It's more useful than having Unity. Either way, we're running around like headless chickens. We have to try and survive that way and rely on our Decrepifiers to survive. While we're here, we'll go through Paragon real quickly before we go into skills. So what you want is definitely have your movement speed capped at 25%. Dump everything else into intelligence. In offense, you definitely want to put your Paragon points in this order. Cooldown reduction first, of course. Critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and then attack speed. With defense, we go resist all, then armor, then life, and then life regeneration. Utility, we're going to go life per hit, resource cost reduction, area damage, and then gold find. Now, let's talk about the skills. So we're using Corpse Lance with Brittle Touch, Blood Rush with Molting. This is very important. So when you actually blood rush, you'll molt and leave a corpse behind. It's super important if we're on a level or an area, a map where we have to break a door down. The only way to do that is to use Blood Rush so we can molt a corpse off us and then use that to burst the door. Ridiculous, I know, but it's just a super powerful build. Curses, we're using Decrepify with Borrowed Time. Corpses, we're using Devour with Satiated. We're using Simulacrum with Reservoir and Land of the Dead, Frozen Lands. In passives, Blood is Power, Final Service, Stand Alone, and Overwhelming Essence. So when we're in our Greater Rift, or if we're farming Nephilim Rifts, whatever the case may be, once you activate Land of the Dead, make sure you simultaneously activate Simulacrum. This will increase our damage big time. The more essence we have, the more damage we do. So maximum essence wherever possible is also important for our gear. However, make sure that cooldown reduction comes first. That's the most important here, definitely. Goes without saying to make sure that we're decrepifying enemies whenever possible, particularly when we're waiting for our Land of the Dead cooldown. We want to be decrepifying, using Blood Rush to get the hell out of sticky situations so we don't take too much damage, and then obviously bang, once we have Land of the Dead, make sure everything's grouped up right, and activate Land of the Dead and Simulacrum simultaneously, and then just spam the hell out of Corpse Lands together with Devour. We want to make sure that we're spamming Devour as we're spamming Corpse Lands both together, so that way we're devouring corpses and increasing our maximum life for every corpse that we devour along the way. We're going to need it to survive. And that's it. You've seen my gameplay example. This is a super overpowered build. However, I did mention that it's a very unique playstyle. It can be annoying. A lot of people hate it, including myself. I'm not a fan of this playstyle, but the Pestilence armor set is the last set that I need to do a guide for the Necromancer. Now I've done all of them, and this will probably suit some people's playstyle. You're going to really enjoy this. You're going to enjoy the overpowered feeling of that Land of the Dead with Simulacrum as you're corpse lancing your way through greater rift levels. The only annoying part may be that surviving part, but who knows? A lot of you might feel that the reward is definitely worth it of getting that 10-second damage window and just obliterating everything on screen. Now, shortly after this video in the coming days, I'm going to be releasing a set dungeon guide for the Pestilence set as well. It's the only set dungeon I haven't done for the Necromancer, so like I mentioned, check out my Necromancer section on my homepage, and I've got all the guides for set dungeons and build guides there. Pestilence is the last one. We're dealing with it right now, so I'm pretty excited to have guides out for every single armor set for the Necromancer class and every set dungeon done and dusted. So be sure to check those out. Don't forget to subscribe for all the latest in Diablo 3 guides, and I'll be coming back real soon with some Crusader content. I'm going to show you some overpowered Crusader stuff. Alright people, I've got to go. I've got stuff to do today. If you refuse to subscribe, your Uncle Bannock still loves you. Just don't forget to come back and visit.